Okay, Fractal World guys. I've been experimenting a little bit with the JMP1 amp models. Since I had one, I got one right there, and a BBE. I've used those for pretty much after they first came out. So, I'm very familiar with them, and using different power amps and cabs and all that kind of stuff. So I ought to know what this thing's supposed to sound like. When I first got the XFX was about a year and a half ago. They had a couple of JMP models, I think, in there, but they weren't accurate. And now they're like quite a bit better. The only thing they lack in is it'd be really, really nice if we had a separate power amp and we could use a different power amp, because it sounds to me like the one that's being used is probably like a generic Marshall Plexi type power amp section. And my favorite power amp section I've always used with the JMP1 most of the time is the DSL. A little more modern sounding. You can also use it with like a one back here, like a little Plexi. Yeah, 1987X back here. So if I wanted to use it in a live situation, it was more kind of rock kind of sounding and lighter and bluesy or something like that, I'd probably use that Plexi head back here as a power amp. Anything more modern metal and stuff like that, I'd probably use a DSL. So anyhow, when I was first messing around with it, I decided to make an IR with my DSL as a power amp section. Left that in there, and I think I went on the forum and showed some guys and stuff like that. Maybe I even did a video about it. Yeah, I think I did. But it's like it's baked in, right? So I start thinking, well, wait a minute, what if I just do a impulse response of the power amp? That way I can use any cab I want, And then also, what about doing maybe a couple different power amps? So I did that. And so basically, I'm giving myself a vintage power amp section and a modern one. The modern is the DSL. The vintage actually was a JCM 900 I had. I didn't do the 1987X yet, but I'll probably end up doing that. But my guess is they're going to sound almost identical. So anyhow, so here's what I got for the JMP1. I'm using so I'll just have three scenes right here. The cab I'm using is a York Audio Marshall 412 with the greenback M25s, and just the one microphone position, which is a Sennheiser, vintage Sennheiser in position 1. Absolute primo IR. I have that same cab back there if you can see it, and that IR is like, and that microphone is like perfect. Like take what it sounds like in the room, and through the monitors or headphones, that's what it sounds like. So really, really good job those guys did on that IR. So I'm using that for every one of the scenes here. Got a little chorus here, and this is a clean. This is what it sounds like. Oh, by the way, this is a Fender American Professional Strat, the version 1, I guess you call it. It was like 2019. I actually like using this on the bridge. I roll the tone, so it has the tone right there. The bottom one there is for the bridge pickup. So not as harsh sounding. So anyhow, that's that. That's the clean channel, and I have another channel. Oh, I hear that single coil bass. I could probably gate that out, but haven't. Anyhow, so this is what I call my Plexi channel. And this is the my main rhythm channel, overdrive. And I guess I should have left that on amp when I was changing them. So back to the clean, I have a FC12 down here I'm switching, so you can see all the information there. Gain, EQ, nothing like super drastic here, kind of same way I do on the real one. And that's the clean. Switch it over here. When I do my plexi tone, I actually use the overdrive one with the bass shift on. And there's the gain and EQ settings. And my main rhythm channel, I use the just regular overdrive one, no bass shift. And there's the gain and EQ settings for that. And the cool thing about the XFX is now with the more recent firmwares, they've done a few since I've owned one now for like a year and a half. So I think I started, it was right before Cygnus hit. So when of course then I tried out the original JMP one, and that one was not done right, and they didn't do the clean channels. And I'm really glad that Cliff redid these, because this is way more accurate. And because of that, you can do kind of stuff that you can do on the real one, and even more stuff, which is kind of cool, sort of. Okay, so like on the original JMP one, like I said, I've played them for years, and this is something if you guys don't know, but it has two 12AX7s in it, and one is used on the clean channels, and the other one is used on the overdrive channels. So on my original one, I always use a Mullard preamp for the clean channels, and a JJ for the overdrive. So here on the XFX, I can kind of do it a little bit different. So here on my clean channel, JMP1 clean, I use clean 2. I'm using a ECC83, which is the Mullard. And on the Plexi channel, which is the overdrive 1 with bass shift on, I'm actually using the ECC83 Mullard, which you can't do. That's one thing that's kind of cool here. You can't do it on the real JMP one, so that's kind of cool. Now I go up to my main rhythm channel, overdrive 1, the JJ. So that's cool. Another thing you can't really do on a real amp and everything, which XFX you can, this is cool, is on the power tubes. So on my clean channel, I'm using a EL34 JJ, and on the Plexi channel, EL34 Mullard, and on my main rhythm channel, JJ. So the Plexi is a little different. I use a different channel there, the bass shift and different power amp, which is kind of cool. So that's something you can't do on the real one. That's pretty cool. But there's one thing on the real one that you can do that you can't do on the XFX, and that sucks, is you cannot put anything between the preamp and the power amp. And on the power amp for the JMP1 models that read where he said he uses basically a generic EL34 power amp. I don't know what that is, just hearing it myself. And remember, I've got lots of experience using JMP1 through different types of power amps and stuff. Not just Marshalls, I've used lots of other amps over the years, and it can sound pretty cool with different other power amps. I prefer the Marshalls with the EL34s myself, but anyhow, to me, the XFX sounds like they're using like probably a plexi style, like the 1987X or 59 or something of that era power amp section. So, which is cool, I guess, in some ways, but it would be very cool if Cliff would have. I know we'd have probably 16 then of the different JMP1 models, but if he would have done like modeled the Marshalls, the big rack mount ones they came out with when the JMP1 first came out with, was the well, actually, the first I think was the 5881, but the EL34 model that has the vintage and modern voicing, which would be really cool, because then you can have that Plexi type overdrive with a Plexi type power amp section, or swap them around and use a modern power section with whatever. So anyhow, that's something that's kind of sucked, and also it'd be nice if you could put something else like the BBE in there. And yeah, I could technically put a BBE through a loop in the XFX, but it's going to be putting it after the power amp and not between the preamp and power amp, which you normally would do. So so I found a way to kind of make a workaround, sort of. So how I did this first is I've made some IRs myself, and I made a IR with a tube power amp, and which sounds different. Some people say, "Oh, you can't do that," but really, all an IR is an EQ curve, so it doesn't matter. It's just an EQ curve. So if you're going for that sound, you're going to have that. If that's what you're using, and you're making an IR of the cabinet you're using, I don't understand why you wouldn't want to include that power amp, because all it is an EQ curve. So it's not adding any power amp distortion. So I think it's more realistic myself. But anyhow, so I did that, and with so results. But then I started thinking, well, that's okay, but well, what if I wanted a vintage power amp? And you have to be making all these IRs with different power amps, so that would be a pain. So then I thought, well, I'll just make an IR of the power amp itself. So I did two of them. I got one of the DSL, and I have another one which I should have used my 1987X, but I don't know why when I decided to do it, for some reason I didn't use that one. I used the JCM 900 I had at the time, which is because I know I can run them, that JMP one, the real one, through different power amps, and it's very, very similar to the 1987X. I mean, like this close, but now the DSL is quite a bit different, much more modern sounding. But anyhow, so that's what I use. So I got one of a JCM 900 and the other one of a DSL. So if you can see here, that's why I have this IR player in between the amp and the cab. So I'm going to try to simulate kind of using a different power amp, at least getting that EQ curve of it. And it kind of, in a way, reminds me of having a BBE in there, sort of. Not exactly, but kind of adds that more bigger, beefier bottom end, which I like. But obviously you wouldn't, or I mean you would. If you're recording, you're going to use a little bit of a low cut and stuff like that, because it does add a little more thickness to it. But I think it works. So anyhow, get back to here's the clean with that IR off, and it's going to be for the clean one I used the modern sounding one, and here's it on. So to me, it adds a more, sounds like more tubiness to it, more rounded, and a little more thicker. So not a drastic change there on the clean channel. So let's go over to the Plexi channel. Okay, on the Plexi, this is the one I added the JCM 900 power amp section. So here it is without. Put it on. Back off. So it reminds me of a lot like the BBE. Like, you're familiar using a BBE and you've had one for a while and you know how to use it right. A lot of guys don't. But anyhow, you have it off. It's like you put a blanket on your tone or something. Back on. I mean, that's off. That was on before. That's got the blanket on it. Blanket back off. Get back on. I like it, and like I said, some reason, somehow, it reminds me more of like a BBE. So if you're one of the guys who like a BBE, you might be able to try something like this, and it might work for you. It's not exact, but to me, it's pretty close. Okay, over to my main overdrive channel. Now this one, I'm using the IR of the DSL. So here it is with it bypassed. On. Definitely give you the stank face on that one, don't it? Yeah, that's a Strat. So, anyhow, that's my kind of workaround. Man. So, if you're a JMP1 user, I mean, and you used a BBE before and you like it, you could kind of try this. Because I think it sounds, what I'm hearing, I mean, like through these headphones, this is me playing to them here through this software and stuff, so I'm getting a little, it's hard to say, I'm getting a little bit of that latency that the XFX doesn't have. So it feels a little weird. But also it doesn't sound real good. These headphones are a little more fizzy sounding. So, and when I play, I act, and my hands act, especially my picking hand acts immediately to whatever I hear and feel, especially the feel. But the on this, I think works. So we're like, oh, you can't do that. You can't run a amp into an IR into another IR. Well, I just did, didn't I? And if you ever played a JMP1 and had a BBE, and you like that, and you hear the difference here, you'll be like, yeah, that's it. All right, have fun.